More than 100 people came together today in Grand Forks for the Tears Walk to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention. A family that lost their son last year to suicide spoke to Valley News Team's Aaron Walling about the importance of taking mental health issues seriously.
If any of the roles were reversed, I know Liam would be out doing this, and so I think he would just probably put his arm around us and say, "I'm proud of you." I hope we're making him proud.
Elizabeth and Todd Met lost their son Liam, who was a freshman at Fargo Davies High School, to suicide last year. The couple joined many others for the Tears Walk in Grand Forks to help raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention.
Especially with what we're dealing with coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing escalation in suicide and rates, and so now is the time to keep talking about it.
More than 100 people gathered at Sertoma Park, walking in honor of those lost to suicide. The topic of mental health has become more prevalent over the years, which those at the Tears group say is very important.
So if we can catch this early and be aware, of our mental health and the mental health of those around us, it greatly helps reduce suicide risk.
To those here at the walk, it's about breaking the stigma with mental health and suicide and helping those in need. Reporting in Grand Forks, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.